Hello, performers. Welcome back to Danny Robertson Music, where we're helping you be the performer that you are meant to be. I'm Danny Robertson. I want to thank you for joining me again this week. This week's going to be fun because we're going to talk about something that is not normally a part of the equation when it comes to live performance, but it actually should be. So let me explain. Have you ever gotten so into a book or TV show because it was so compelling and the story was written so well and the characters were so well developed that you either couldn't put the book down or you couldn't stop watching after episode? That's the concept that I want to talk about today, and how you can use what you learn from TV shows and books to apply that to your live show and create this amazing experience that lets your audience want to go along on the journey with you. The idea to bring this all up came from the fact that one of my children was recently asked to be part of a young authors group. And in the process of us helping her try to figure that out, we talked about character development. We talked about creating the tension that tells the story and makes the reader move forward. We can all do this in our own live shows. Working to develop a real story for your live performance can actually help you to do things like build an emotional connection with your audience and make that show stick so that your audience not only remembers your show, but wants to come to the next one. So let's quickly dive into 3 potential concepts that we can use to create a storyline for our performance. First, I want you to think about characters. Characters that you've read about in a good book or a great TV show that have had not necessarily your favorite character on the show, but more along the lines of who has the most compelling storyline that has kept you reading along or watching the show from week in and week out. Some of the ones that come to mind are guys like Walter White from Breaking Bad, or Tony Soprano from The Sopranos, or maybe someone like Eleven from Stranger Things. They might not necessarily be great people, but their storyline that character has to follow is immensely captivating. It keeps you engaged in watching or paying attention to the story. From what I can tell, you can actually do this from the stage in 2 different ways. First, let's talk about you as the performer. Now, if you're playing a band, it could be that there are several people or even everybody in your band that could each play essentially a character on stage that has a storyline that develops over the course of your performance. I would personally think that the most important person to think about this for is the person that is your center of attention, your front person, your lead singer. But where it could also apply is maybe you have a new drummer that has come into the band recently. What is the storyline for that drummer? Maybe you design your show to grow and grow over time? Or is there a story arc that is related to how your set list develops? You can actually create a concept for the way that your show flows. I encourage you to check out our free guide called the Setlist Checklist that we have at DannyRobertsonMusic.com. That's a good one to kind of talk through that kind of concept. The second way that you can potentially look at a character arc is how the performance ties into specific people within the audience. For example, I play a lot of weddings, and because I play a lot of weddings, there are plenty of brides and grooms who have their own love story built into my performance. If I bother to get to know a little bit about their story, I can incorporate that into the way that I perform the show. Maybe the way that the bride and groom met or fell in love has a particular song that would fit and match to that. You can talk about that part of the story as you go to play the next song. Okay, understand where I'm going with this? And this even works in a situation where you might be just playing a bar or a club. There might be a story associated with the people in the audience or the venue. I encourage you to think about how you can develop a character arc for your audience. How would they grow through your performance? The second storytelling concept that comes from books and TV shows and movies that we could possibly incorporate into our own live performances is the big reveal. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, think about it in a TV show. Sometimes when you watch TV shows, especially ones that are kind of mystery based, you might see a concept like over many episodes, something happens that kind of reveals a little bit about the possibility that there is a hidden mastermind behind the scenes. They're working on something that nobody fully understands yet. And then as the story progresses, you get to the point where there's the big reveal that there is a mastermind and it was the person sitting next to the hero the whole time. There is the possibility of doing that in a live show, not necessarily having a hidden mastermind, but the concept behind revealing something that kind of grows over time. So, what could this look like in a live performance? Well, let's give you an example from the perspective of you're performing at a bar or club. At the beginning of the show, you hint that there's a big surprise for the audience later in the show. So stick around because we want you to see this. Over the course of many songs, you keep giving slight hints. Maybe, well, the surprise is that we have a surprise performer that's going to come join us on stage. And you keep progressively giving more hints until the big reveal, where you invite that surprise performer to come and perform a couple of songs with you on stage. The surprise guest concept could even work for something as simple as having the groom come up on stage and singing a song with the band. You don't have to tell the audience who that surprise guest is until it actually happens, but the entire concept is based on creating anticipation and then later on, creating the payoff for that anticipation. So think about it and let me know what kind of big reveal you might be able to incorporate into your own show. I'd love to hear your ideas. The third concept about storytelling that I want to talk about today is definitely my favorite, and it's the reason why I wanted to bring up this video. It is the cliffhanger. Now, how many times have you either read a book or seen a TV show where at the end of the season or even at the end of an episode, they leave you hanging and you have to sit there and go, I really want to find out the resolve of this situation. And it makes you want to watch the next piece or read the next piece of the story. One of the most famous examples of this came from a show from the 1980s called Dallas, where there was a character that was shot and everybody wanted to know who shot JR on that television show. There's also more recent season-ending cliffhangers, like, for example, one of the ones that just got me so bad was the Walking Dead. There was a season where all of our heroes were captured and they were sitting in a half circle and the bad guy was going to kill one of them. And then they left it at that. So you did not find out until the beginning of the next season who actually was killed in that situation. And it was painful because it was one of those where they left you uncomfortable about it. And they left you for 3 months like that. These days, cliffhangers have become so common in order to keep viewership that they happen almost at the end of every single episode of every single TV show. But they're doing what they're supposed to do. The purpose of a cliffhanger is to keep you coming back. So how could a band or any other kind of live performer, how could they effectively execute a cliffhanger during a live performance? The first possibility is teasing the future. Maybe you want to release an album. Well, you can tease the fact that the album is coming out soon and maybe supply some kind of QR code, or maybe you've got a big show coming up that you're going to be able to invite your audience to. But in this case, you can't talk about it when you're from the stage. So you might say something like, so we're working on something very special and it's going to be lined up pretty soon. So we want you to keep an eye on our social media page. And we're going to be talking about this really, really, really big show that I want you to come to. Another great way to use a cliffhanger in a live show is to incorporate it as part of your set list. You get done with the first set that you're going to play and you leave it where you have a way to kind of let the audience sit there hanging, waiting for either the end of a song or the transition to the next song that's supposed to happen.
You're on video.
The audience feels like they're left there hanging a little bit and they need to see that resolve. Psychologically speaking, a cliffhanger does a couple of important things. It leaves your audience still thinking about your show, whether you're done or not. And it makes your performance sticky. It gets stuck in their brains and it makes them want to follow you, come to the next performance, and tell their friends. I encourage you to think about how you can leave your audience with a cliffhanger of some kind so that your audience has the desire to stick around longer or come see you the next time. I want you to think about ways that you can make your live performance feel more like the chapters in a book or the episodes of a storyline on a TV show, and how you can develop that into a greater themed story across your entire performance. Think about the storyline arc of your characters, the big reveal moments or plot twists that you might be able to incorporate into your show, and how you can leave your audience hanging through some kinds of cliffhangers, either between your sets or at the end of your performance, or somewhere in between. When you do this right in your live performance, you're not just playing songs. You are creating a story for your audience to go on that journey with you. So if you think of any great ideas about this, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Share with everybody here, what are the clever ways that you could tell the story of your band or your relationship with the audience? And how can you leave your audience wanting more every single time? So leave me a comment if you can, subscribe if you are enjoying this one, and definitely check out Danny Robertson Music, where we've got a whole lot more about ways that you can develop your live performance, not just your music, but your entire show, how you can make it feel grander, more exciting, more compelling for the audience to engage with you, things like that. So check out Danny Robertson Music when you get a chance, okay? Thanks again for watching this week. In the meantime, get some storytelling ideas down, and best of luck on your next show. We'll see you soon. Take care.